Hey everyone, welcome back to M&M IELTS. This is Manmohit. In today's video, I am going to start with the writing module of your IELTS exam, which is basically, so we'll starting with the general section. So IELTS writing general. Now, what happens in the writing module is there's basically two different tasks that you would be getting, task 1 and task 2. Because we are covering about the general exam, there is another exam that we call academic. The difference in general and academic is simply the task 1. Task 2 remains exactly the same for general and academic both, so there's no difference in that. But task 1, for the academic exam, it's gonna be some sort of a report, something like summary that we need to write or type based on what type of exam you give. But for the general exam, the task 1 is always going to be a letter. Letter further can be of two different types, so I would be creating two separate videos for that one because it will be difficult, or I would say confusing, to understand both of these types of letters in just one video. So formal and informal letters. Today we would be covering about the informal letters. Now, difference in formal and informal is, simple way to understand is, if you have to write a letter to your friend or someone in the family, that's informal. And if you have to write a letter to someone which is not your friend, something like you're writing a letter to your principal, or you're writing a letter to a mailman, writing a letter to a company, anything or anyone that is not your friend is basically a formal letter. So that's the difference in these two versions. So today we are going to talk about the informal letters. What happens in this particular task is, obviously you would be given something like this, a paragraph, and it will have a sentence line with few questions and then a concluding sentence as to how to start your letter, something like this. They may give you a hint how to start the letter, like dear sir, dear ma'am, dear friend, dear James, all that kind of stuff. And then it would say your word limit as well, which in task 1 is going to be 150 words. So that's the word limit of 150. Now 150 words doesn't really mean you have to type or write exactly 150 words. I mean, the more closer you are, the better. But if you write 180 words, 190 words, 100 and let's say 70 words, something like that, it should be okay. It's not going to impact your band score. But if you type 140 words or write 140 words, 130 words, less than 150, there is a chance you will lose your band score because they are saying write at least 150 words for this one. Now, because we are writing the informal letter, we have to make sure that we sound informal. This is one mistake that many students make, that even if it's an informal letter, they'll start typing or writing the letter which contains a lot of formal words like dear, Mr., all these kind of words. I am writing this letter to inform you, all these kind of things which are formal. That's something you need to actually avoid, because if you use those things, it's not going to give you more scores for that one. Another thing you need to understand is the number of questions that they would be giving you over there. You have to make sure that you answer all of those questions. They're not optional. They have given you those questions for a reason, and they're expecting an answer for all of them, making sure that you do not exceed the word, making sure that you do not exceed or undermine the word limit that they have given you. So you still have to answer all the questions. Now, this is one question that I get asked a lot, is about bullet points, or you can say paragraphs. If they have asked me 3 or 4 questions, do I need to put the answers in different paragraphs? Is it a compulsory thing, mandatory thing? Answer is no. But should you do it? I would say yes. You can write all the information in one paragraph and still get away with that and still get a good band score. But it won't hurt you to make couple of paragraphs, because that will just make the life of the examiner easier, and it will make it easier for the examiner to check your exam. And obviously in turn, if you are making the examiner happy, obviously you don't want to put the examiner in a wrong mood or in a bad mood by just putting everything in one go. So you want to make your letter as easy to read as possible. So that is why we make paragraphs. There's no compulsion from IELTS, but this is what we do just so that we can make it easy for them. Another thing I can tell you is to use the contractions, and use as much as you can, but only if you know how to use them. Do not just deliberately start using them if you do not know the application for that. Examples are, if the word is I would, I can write by combining those two words and saying I'd. I had, again, can be contracted into I'd. I have can be contracted into I've. He's, it's, all these kind of words where you combine two words, they're called contractions. So prefer using those because they are informal, and the more informal things we use, the better it is going to be for the exam. Also, feel free to use exclamations, question marks, all those kind of things. Again, why? Because they are informal. So if you use them, you're not going to be penalized for that. You will actually gain marks because you're using the informal things that the IELTS exam is asking from you. Something like at the end of the sentence, you can say, I can't, which is a contraction, wait to see you, exclamation. Now do not just go crazy with the exclamation, start putting multiple of them. Now that's wrong and that doesn't look good. Just put one exclamation, something like this. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to speak with you. Something like this. Now, if I talk about how this task 1 is being scored in the writing module, let's understand what sort of criteria are we trying to satisfy. So this is what I'm referring to, the band descriptors. So it has got all the bands from all the way from 0 to the 9 bands. So 0 is simply if you did not attend the exam, that's pretty much 0. But afterwards, if your aim is 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, these are the criteria that we need to follow. So basically there's 3 things, or let's say 4 things that they're trying to test from you. One is the task achievement, that did you cover all the things that the task was asking from you. Coherence and cohesion, basically in such a way it attracts no attention. Coherence and cohesion. Lexical resource, which is basically your vocabulary. Grammatical range and accuracy, it's your grammar. Coherence and cohesion simply means that how well are your ideas and how well are your sentences connected with each other, as in the flow of your entire task, and how easy was it for the examiner to understand whatever you have written or typed down. So that's the coherence and cohesion. So using simple sentences but not so simple enough, using complex sentences but not so complex that even the examiner can't even understand what's happening, and the sentences are not even linked to each other. So use the sentences which are linking and they make sense, and it is easier for the examiner to understand the flow of the entire task that you have just typed down or that you have just written down. Another thing that you need to understand is in terms of vocabulary, and I cannot stress that enough, is that I've seen many students, what they do is they just memorize couple of, let's say 10, 15, 20 good words and try to use it in any and every single task, even if let's say they know the meaning but they do not know the application, and they just start using the random gibberish words here and there. Understand one thing, if you know the word, if you know the spellings, it doesn't mean it can guarantee you a good band score. If you do not know how to apply and where to apply that word, and you just end up just pushing the word somewhere. If you read this lexical resource column over here, it says uses a wide range of vocabulary with very natural and sophisticated control of the features, rare minor errors. So I'm not asking you for band 9, but even for band 7 and 8, you have to understand that the vocabulary words that you're using, yes, it's important to use good vocabulary words, but only and only use them if you know how to use them, if you know where those words go. Do not memorize just general words and start using them everywhere. The words, the phrases that you're trying to use should match, the tone should match your task that you have just written or typed down. One thing I can definitely recommend in terms of your vocabulary is the use of synonyms. This is extremely important. This is extremely beneficial. Use synonyms where you know them. If you know that good, great, importance, important, significant, wherever you know the synonyms as in some different words but same meaning, prefer using them. I would any day prefer having same word but written in two different words rather than having same word repeated again and again. That drastically reduces your band score, so always prefer having different words. Few more tips I can give you for this particular task. After this I would be displaying a sample answer as well, just so we can go over that a bit to understand how this works. But for now, few tips can be, if it's an informal letter, prefer, or let's say do not use the salutations, Mr., Mrs., all these kind of words, doctor, and all this stuff. Like if my friend's name is Jake, I will not say Mr. Jake. All right. So this is what you need to understand. That's part of the formal letter. It's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's part of the formal letter, not the informal one. So prefer not using these things. I cannot stress this part. I think I already said that as well, that you have to answer all the questions. Those questions are not optional. You have to answer them. Even if you feel you're exceeding the word limit by 10 to 20 words, that's fine, but you have to make sure you answer all the questions that have been given to you. Use of contractions, that is very important, I would say, because they are informal, they will help you. Use exclamations. And in terms of connectors, because obviously you will have to connect few sentences somewhere in task 1, prefer using informal connectors as well, which is and, but, so, or, instead of, however, moreover, furthermore. I mean, they're not wrong. You won't really lose band scores for them, but if you just use these connectors, your task 1 is gonna sound very formal, which in turn as a collective thing may reduce your band score. So prefer using very simple but informal connectors, and, or, but, these kind of words, just so that the task 1 sounds very informal for this one. Now what I'll do is I'll show you the sample letter that I have, just so you guys can understand how this question looks like. So first what I'll do is I'll show you the question which I have here. It says you stayed at a friend's house last weekend and lost your watch. How do I identify this is an informal letter in the exam? The moment I see the word friend, I know it's an informal letter, but I'll still read out the complete thing. And I lost my watch. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, you should include the answer for these 3 questions, which are compulsory. First, I need to thank him or her. That is up to me to decide. What I'll do is I'll go with a guy's name, so I'll use him, for the good time you had. So that has nothing to do with the watch that I lost, but I just need to thank him for the good time that I had with him. Then I need to describe my watch, just so that that person can understand what am I missing. And then I need to tell my friend what you would like him or her to do if he or she finds it. And then I need to tell my friend as to if he or she finds the letter, what he or she needs to do about it. So basically I need to cover 3 aspects. This is what you need to do. Now you have, let's say, 20 minutes in the exam to do task 1. That's what they say, but obviously you can take less or more time than that one. I usually take just 20 minutes in the exam if I personally am giving an exam. So 20 minutes is good, but if you need more time, that's perfectly fine. But understand one thing, in total, collectively in the writing module, you get 60 minutes. So you have to still attempt task 2. So more time you take in the task 1, less time you will have for the task 2. So time limit. For the first couple of minutes, at least for 3-4 minutes, my main focus has to be developing the ideas. That's another mistake students make, that they just start writing or typing the questions the moment they see them right away, and once they have done half of it, that's when they struggle or they just get stuck because they don't know what to add and what have they written. That wastes more time according to me. Prefer just developing the ideas. In your rough notebook over there, you can just write down somewhere about thank him or her for the good time you had. Something about, you can mention lovely dinner, the dinner was good, the service or hospitality was not service, it's not a restaurant, hospitality was good. Describe your watch. I'll go with the Apple Watch. What's the recent one that's launched? I think Series 8. I'll go with that. Tell your friend what you would like him or her to do with it if he or she finds it. So basically, post it, as in send it to me, or just inform me, call me, do something. But so generate ideas as to what are you exactly going to write or type about. Once you have got that written, that's when you start typing your task 1. So what now I'll do is I'll bring up the sample answer that I've got, and we'll discuss that as per the questions that we have and all the tips that I just shared. Now, as you can see, this is how a sample answer has been written. There is an introduction. I've introduced that person. Then, as you can see, I've got 3 paragraphs over here. A concluding sentence, my concluding words, and then my name. So name is important because that's how you complete a letter. You can show to the person, you can show to the examiner that when you add your name, it just looks more informal that you've actually written that. Now, the first starting, because it's an informal letter, you can go with either Dear Adam, Hi Adam. Do not say Hey Adam, What's up Adam, all these kind of slangs. Do not use slangs even though it's informal. But Dear Adam, do not say Dear Mr. Adam, that's straight away wrong. Never do that. Dear Adam or Hi Adam are both correct. Then, as you can see, because there were 3 questions, so I've answered all the 3 questions in 3 different paragraphs. I could have just combined all 3 into 1 paragraph, but I just decided to have 3 separate paragraphs because it just looks a lot neater and cleaner. My first question was, thank my friend about the time that I spent with him. So what I have written is, I'm still not over the pleasure and fun-filled weekend that I had with you. Although it wasn't the first time we stayed together, last weekend was beyond expectations. This sentence, last weekend was beyond expectations, is what we call subordinate clause. Subordinate clause. Not an independent clause, but a subordinate clause, which simply means that this clause or this sentence, little sentence that I've written, it connects with this previous sentence. It cannot stand alone. It cannot. If you just write down these many words, last weekend was beyond expectations, it makes sense, but it's not, it's incomplete without more information. So these are known as subordinate clauses. I'm grateful for the hospitality and warm environment that you and your family provided. Now, if you look over here, the vocabulary words that I've used are not just the word grateful, hospitality. That's all. Now, even the words warm environment, it's a phrase, warm environment, and it's a good verb phrase. So vocabulary just doesn't mean single words. A phrase can be part of the vocabulary as well. Remember, it's not vocabulary, it's lexical resource. So the more good complex phrases you use, the better your band score is gonna be, and that you and your family provided. So I've answered the answer for the question number 1, that I thanked him for the time that we spent. Next was, if you just go over here, describe your watch. So in the next paragraph, I've described my watch. However, I think I apostrophe VE, which is a contraction. I think I've lost my watch at your house somewhere. It would be, but I've written it be extremely helpful if you can cautiously check, a vocabulary word, cautiously check, properly check all the nooks and corners of the area. Nooks and corners, again, a phrase. Of the area where we spend most of our time. It's what? It's an Apple Series 8 watch. Apple Series 7, whichever watch you want to mention. It has a grey leather strap and the dial is gray in color as well. Right, so very brief, but I've described what my watch looks like. And in my third question, tell your friend what you would like him to do if he finds it. So if he finds it, what he needs to do, since it's a smart watch, you wouldn't have to face a lot of trouble finding the same. Along with being an expensive watch, I'm closely attached to it as it was gifted to me by my wife. I hope you find it sooner. If you do find it, I'll be grateful if you can courier it to me. If not, kindly write a letter and I will come by to pick up. Now that's a very smart sentence over here. I could have said, if not, just call me and I will come by to pick up. Because if that person would have been able to call me, then why am I writing a letter for no reason? Why wouldn't I call him, right? So you have to make your letter a bit more sensible for the reader. Because if I am writing a letter to my friend, there has to be a reason that I could not have just called him. So I would try to relate those sentences. I said, if not, just write me a letter. I did not say, if not, just give me a call. Because if he could give me a call, why couldn't I? That's why, again, it's not wrong, but it's just being smart and sensible about the letter, about the words, about the ideas that you've already used. If not, kindly write a letter and I will come by to pick up, which answers my third question. And I always end by, can't wait to hear from you. I could have said, cannot wait to hear from you, but can't wait to hear from you, and then I put a exclamation at the end. So this is how brief and I would say detailed the task one has to be. As you could see, I just answered all the questions that were asked from me. I did not just go into details that it's metallic in nature, the watch weighs this much, it's 42 mm and all that stuff. It's not required. I mean, you could add that, but you would definitely exceed the word limit. But in this case, at least you have answered all the questions, you have satisfied the criteria, you have used all the vocabulary you knew. The vocabulary sounds good, the vocabulary sounds sensible, it doesn't feel rushed and pushed. It does not sound like I've pushed the words for no reason. I've used a great variety of grammar, I would say. All my ideas are there, the word limit is intact, and this is how you can write a perfect task one. As you could see what I did, I got my question, I developed the ideas, and I started writing after that. Obviously, I've got a sample answer, and then at the end, I will proofread the entire thing just to make sure I haven't made any spelling mistakes, or I haven't just skipped any words, added any words which shouldn't be, correcting any grammar mistakes, correcting any vocabulary words, all that stuff. So this is what all you need to do in the 20 minutes. I hope this video was helpful. If you have got any questions in regards to this task, you're more than welcome to put that in the comment section below, and me and Mohit will reply to you guys as quickly as possible. Again, this is just the beginning of the writing module. I would be covering up the formal letter as well after that. Also the task 2, task 1 for the academic writing as well. So a lot of content is on the way. So if you haven't subscribed already, you can consider subscribing so that whenever those videos are up, you do get notified about them. Also, other videos are there on the channel already. There's few of them now. So we're just starting. We are just starting with the videos. We are going to publish a lot of content in the future as well. If you just need help and support from us one-on-one, anything like that, any consultations about IELTS, you're more than welcome to text us on Instagram or Facebook. Again, we are available over there. With that, I'm done with this video. All the best if you have got your exams coming soon. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next one.